Diablo 4 Season 11 might be bringing big change, but I think Season 10 is still the king. Hear me out. I spent the week hammering the test server, and today I'll give my final Season 11 verdict. Hint, I don't think Season 11 will be the best season yet. Outside of Diablo, the new Path of Exile League just dropped. Halo is headed to PlayStation. Microsoft is aiming for an everywhere Xbox. Arc Raiders is surging. Helldivers 2 may drop HDD support. And Amazon just swung the axe on game dev again. Hey folks, this is Rhykker, and I dig into ARPG and gaming news so that you can spend more time playing games. Chapters below to skip to different topics. Now, before I move on, a quick word from this video's sponsor, Incogni. It feels like every month you hear a new story about a cyber attack or a data breach that results in personal information getting leaked. From passwords and email addresses to social security numbers and phone numbers. Just a month ago, there was a Discord data breach where even billing information got leaked. Just a few days ago, we learned that 183 million Gmail passwords were leaked. And every time I'm like, gosh, now I gotta change my password on this, I gotta change my password on that. But meanwhile, our personal data is getting collected, aggregated, and traded like a commodity. And it's a lot of work for us to track down whatever unauthorized personal info about us may be floating around on the internet out there and get it taken down. But that's where Incogni comes in. It's a service that seeks to protect you by removing any unauthorized trace of you from the internet. They reach out to data brokers on your behalf, request your data be removed, and deal with any pushback they may get. With Incogni, you can at least feel like someone is fighting back to keep you safe. So here's my Incogni dashboard. You can see that I've got 6 information removal requests left in progress, and 171 have been completed. Incogni has also added a family plan that lets you extend your coverage to up to 4 additional members, as well as an unlimited plan, which introduces Incogni's custom removals feature. With that, you can point to any website where your personal information is visible, and one of Incogni's privacy agents will take care of the rest. So go to incogni.com/Rhykker and use code Rhykker to get an exclusive offer of 60% off. Incogni helps erase you from the internet. They can't steal your identity if they can't find you. Click the link below to claim your 60% off and take your personal data off the market. Starting off with Diablo news. The Season 11 test server ended this week. I got a bit more testing in since last week's video, and I'll go over my final thoughts now. Now, I believe I've said pretty much every season, if not literally every season, since the game launched, that whatever newest season is the best season yet. But I think if Season 11 launches pretty much as is, then Season 10 will remain the best season. So I had these notes that I jotted down during streaming on the good, the bad, and the ugly. So the change to tempering, overall good, being able to pick the affix we wanted is exactly what we wanted. But dropping down to only 1 tempered affix will be unpopular for a lot of players. Even though this probably does not reflect a decrease in power since we're gaining an extra main affix on legendary gear. That said, the extra main affix isn't that exciting because affixes aren't that interesting in general. The tempered affixes were actually the most interesting affixes. Still, I can see tempering made a bit more interesting by widening the gap on the affix ranges, give us more reason to want to reroll and more excitement for landing a max roll on a tempered affix. The changes to monster combat, you feel the monsters behaving more intelligently early game. Late game, you don't really feel it, but you do feel all the myriad new enemy affixes. So there's a lot more dodging and maneuvering to avoid getting hit by all these things. The game is getting visually more noisy with this. I'm getting too old to play bullet hell games with a million things happening on screen. Potion changes, I like them. Having only 4 potions feels more dangerous. You can't just spam 8 potions in a row. That said, potion drops are maybe too plentiful right now, because in practice I don't think I ever actually ran out of potions. The Lesser Evils invading Sanctuary, very cool. The pit is more fun now with Belial in it, having the choice to click on the Belial eyes to summon a champion pack. That's great, no more backtracking in the pit because those champions count as extra monsters. Helltide taken over by Duriel is cool with the new Duriel-themed monsters, and it's super rewarding with the juicing via divine gifts. Then getting a giant Azmodan as our first new world boss is awesome. I just love the scale of him. Very fitting for a great evil. Then I finally did try the tower, and I actually love it. It really feels like Diablo 3 Greater Rifts, and it actually makes me kind of hate the pit now. I'm not sure I can dial in precisely why, but I just have much more fun running the tower than the pit. Something maybe about map layouts or monster spawns. The one downside of the tower, we really need a Bane of the Stricken. Some builds have very weak single target, and it's going to take you half of your tower duration just to take out the Rift Guardian at the end, which is not fun. The Bane of the Stricken was a legendary gem in Diablo 3 that we used to deal an accelerating damage buff to enemies, meaning the more you hit an enemy, the more of a damage buff you gain against that enemy. They added this into Diablo 3 specifically to solve the problem of us taking half of our Rift time just to kill the Guardian. At this point, just make it a buff that's active in the tower, period, right? There's no way to implement it as an item, just make it a tower buff. On a similar note, the pylons having a shield around them before they can be used. My Dance of Knives rogue took forever to kill the Rift Guardian and actually could not even afford to take the time to clear the shields on the pylons. Like, the time to free the pylon was greater than the time I saved by equipping the pylon. You know, this is after testing. I just started skipping all pylons and I realized that was improving my times. Now, this was just with my Dance of Knives rogue. Literally every other class had no issue. Anyway, moving on from the tower. The season rank change is great. Starting off at level 1, earning the bonus skill points feels good. The new capstone dungeons are awesome with cool mechanics. I much prefer season rank to season journey. There still are kind of some bogus goals in there, but, you know. The 1 to 60 is faster and more fun than ever, though they do need to nerf the XP from bosses you can summon like Azmodan. Then, Sanctification. An optional Gamba Slam mechanic to try to power up your item with a risk of ruining it and a good chance of not really benefiting from it, and a slight chance of getting a godly modifier on it. This is a good mechanic to have in the game, and many people will hate it and complain about it in the first few days of season. Many people will not see it for what it is. They will expect it to be a strictly beneficial thing, and they'll be pissed when they realize it is not. There is a kind of player that likes these slam and pray mechanics. Generally, it's the kind of player who can sink a lot of time into the game and farm up enough gear to have multiple backups to brick. But then there's the kind of player who doesn't have the time or desire to farm lair bosses for 8 hours to then back to back slam a bunch of items, hoping for one of them to be good. And I think this group of player is going to be disappointed that one of the flagship season mechanics is something they won't want to engage with. Then the updates to healing. I like the change to Fortify being a heal mechanic. It's a cool idea. But overall, I don't feel like the updates to healing really changed anything in gameplay. I don't feel incentivized to spec towards life on hit or healing in general, because whenever I do die, I die in like half a second. So I have no time to heal anyway. I'm sometimes getting one shot and sometimes just taking so much damage so quickly that it really doesn't matter how much healing I have. In practice, there's just rarely a situation where I end up low on health and need to heal. I'm either at full hit points or I'm dead. The Divine Gifts. This is the juicing mechanic where we get extra challenge and extra reward in different game modes. Really cool system conceptually. When you first equip these Divine Gifts, they're awesome, but you're gonna forget they exist completely by day 3 or hour 3. Once you've unlocked them all, there's really no interaction with the system anymore. They're there, they're leveling up passively, they're benefiting you more and more. They're doing their thing, and the thing they're doing is great, but you're just gonna forget they exist. It would have been cool to have more interaction with the system somehow. Generally with juicing mechanics, applying the juice is a moment of interaction, reminds you that it's there. Or if it's some kind of a passive skill tree thing, putting points into the tree, it's a moment of interaction. Anything where we're making choices. Then, masterworking. I really didn't have a problem with the previous masterworking system. I know a lot of people hated having to keep trying to re-roll and re-roll for the 3 crit masterwork. I would never bother. Whatever 12 I landed on, I would keep that. But we've completely changed the masterworking system now, and this one is far more boring. Increasing the quality before the capstone just feels like a chore. especially with the material cost versus material acquisition rate. I was actually surprised to see how long it was taking to quality up my items. And the tiny increases in quality are imperceptible if you're doing it gradually. It's really only if you're dumping all 20 points in at once that you feel any appreciable difference. The capstone though, that one's cool. Honestly, I wouldn't mind doing away with the quality entirely and just leaving us with the capstone. But then it would be too easy to capstone, I suppose. So quality feels like it's a chore because that's basically what it is. It exists to stop us from capstoning too quickly. Ultimately, most of the fun has been taken out of masterworking now. Then the biggest change, the defenses rework to an ever-increasing toughness stat system. Does it bring the game into a better balance state? Maybe. Probably. I'm willing to bet at high-level gameplay that it does make the game better balanced. But does it make the game feel better to play? Not for me. I don't really care about the balance of the game at pit level 120. Most people are not playing at that level, and it just feels like the removal of clear defense goals, armor 1000, max resistances. It just feels it's going to make it more confusing for players who don't follow build guides to understand how best to improve their defenses. So, all of that combined with this being a nerf season, because we're losing all the power that Masterworking gave us, and we're coming off of a huge power creep season because the Season 10 powers were super strong, and we're losing Chaos Armor that everyone loved, and we're losing Chaos Rifts that altogether had us playing in more diverse activities than ever. We weren't locked in Lair Boss Jail, and I think for many people, Season 11 will be less fun than Season 10. But we'll have to see what the final patch notes are. But what are your thoughts, folks? Sound off in the comments. Now, we did not get a Halloween event for Diablo 4 this year. We did sort of get one last year. It was basically just log in and claim some cosmetics. This time we got Bupkis. I suppose they took to heart people saying they'd rather have nothing at all than a low-effort event. Still, it would be nice to get some tentpole events in Diablo 4. Diablo Immortal has some big Halloween festivities going on for almost a full month, complete with multiple custom game modes. What we are getting in D4, however, is multiple back-to-back booster events, which I'm glad for. I think it's a good idea to have some kind of event going on regularly, rotating through different boosters to help new players catch up or otherwise just add some diversity to the rotation of daily players. From November 4th to November 11th, it's all about Infernal Hordes. We're getting more Infernal Compasses to drop. There's going to be more Chaos Waves in Infernal Hordes. That's sick. And apparently increased Ether drops as well. And this comes right after the Mother's Blessing event that was boosting Gold and XP and Infernal Warp. But yeah, obviously it would be nice to also get those tentpole Diablo Immortal style events. And speaking of Diablo Immortal, Blizzard revealed how many players play Diablo Immortal every day. In an interview with The Gamer, Diablo Immortal lead artist Emil Salim said that about 400,000 people play daily. I wish I knew what the Diablo 4 numbers were. Then in some Xbox news, Halo is coming to PlayStation. Never imagined I'd see the day. A remake of 2001's Halo Combat Evolved was announced. This is different from the remaster that was released in 2011 and re-released with competitive multiplayer in 2014. Called Halo Campaign Evolved, it's set for release on Xbox, Windows, and yes, even PlayStation in 2026. It's being remade in Unreal Engine 5 in 4K with new animations, voice recordings, improved cutscenes and level design, and even some gameplay updates like you can sprint now. They're even going to expand the story to include 3 prequel missions. While co-op will be available, complete with crossplay between Xbox, PC, and PS5, the competitive multiplayer component will not be included. And Microsoft has been defending its decision to abandon exclusives. Head of Xbox Game Studios Matt Booty told the New York Times that today's gamers don't care on what device they play games. I beg to differ, but he said, quote, "Our biggest competition isn't another console. We are competing more and more with everything from TikTok to movies." Well, I don't think you're quite competing with TikTok or short-form video content. People are watching TikTok while doing other things. You go to a movie theater and the freaking Gen Zs are on their phones scrolling TikTok while watching the movie. We all know that you don't go to movie theaters to look at your phone the whole time. You go to movie theaters to make out with your girlfriend. But anyway, while you're not competing necessarily with short-form video content, you are in general competing with other forms of entertainment. That is fair to say. Microsoft has become the largest game publisher by revenue after the acquisition of Activision Blizzard, so it makes sense that with there being no bigger fish to serve as the competition in the software industry, they're broadening their scope of what they consider competition. It's like a pizza restaurant, not just considering other pizza places to be their competition, but all other restaurants in general. As per Microsoft's CEO Satya Nadella, they want to be everywhere, just like Microsoft Office is. And this is what I've been talking about for years. Microsoft wants to absorb everyone into the Microsoft ecosystem so that you are playing Microsoft-published games on Microsoft hardware running on a Microsoft operating system, or at least checking as many of those boxes as possible. Nadella said, quote, "We're going to be everywhere. Consoles, PC, mobile, cloud, and direct on the TV. Our aim is for games to be enjoyed by gamers everywhere." Nadella pointed out that the biggest gaming business in the world is actually Windows, that even Steam's business is built on Windows. And Microsoft's next big move seems to be a premium console for its next Xbox that's going to basically be an all-in-one PC and console, as per reports by Windows Central. Imagine an Xbox that you boot up. You can run your Xbox games like normal, but then you can also switch to a Windows mode. Now, the Xbox basically becomes a PC, and you can load up Steam and play those PlayStation titles that are released on Steam. You can run World of Warcraft. No need to port WoW to console if your console can now run Windows games. You can run League of Legends. All the PC games you own, you can now play on your new Xbox. All your existing Xbox games, it's backwards compatible. And also no more paying to play multiplayer, since that wouldn't make sense if you have access to Windows, because why pay for the multiplayer on Xbox when you can just play the game on Windows and not have to pay for multiplayer? And for the record, I was always opposed to having to pay for multiplayer access. I'm already paying for my internet access. Now I gotta pay for the privilege to use the internet access that I'm paying for? What? 2027 is when both Sony and Microsoft seem to be targeting their next-gen console release for. And it sounds like the new Xbox will be a lot more expensive, as per Xbox President Sarah Bond, who told Mashable that it'll be a very premium, very high-end curated experience. And even if it is more expensive than a PlayStation, Microsoft can likely sell this thing for cheaper than the equivalent in PC parts by making bulk purchase deals with parts sellers and also not having to add in a Windows license fee. A lot of gamers don't like the hassle of building a PC and they just buy pre-built. And those of us who do build our own PCs know how much more they're paying for pre-built. So Microsoft here has an opportunity to deliver a solid package that competes with, like, Alienware. They can probably blow Alienware out of the water. And I imagine they can also scoop up some of us who build our own PCs, again, if it ends up being a cheaper package, or at least damn near equivalent, right? If I don't have to build the PC and get the same parts for the same price, I might as well get it pre-made. What it really comes down to is the customization. I'm unlikely to want exactly what they're putting in their Xbox, and I want to customize my own parts to my own liking. But we're a minority. Whether console players will stomach what is likely to be a steep increase in price is to be seen. But they would be buying access to a console that can play more games than any other platform available. And for people who normally buy every console, right? Some people own an Xbox for the Xbox exclusives, a PlayStation for the PlayStation exclusives, a PC for the PC exclusives. That costs more than just getting the one Xbox that rules them all. And even if this expensive premium Xbox product flops, Microsoft still comes out winning because they sell more games by making their games available on PlayStation's bigger user base than by making their games exclusive on a less popular console. And once Xbox eventually loses its identity as being what we know an Xbox to be, and basically just becomes a branded PC, it won't even be thought of as a competing product to the PlayStation anymore. And Microsoft won't care because the money was always in the games, not in the consoles. Console makers sell their consoles at a loss and make up for that loss by selling games. This would still mean that Microsoft lost the console war to Sony. So now they're just doing the smart thing. If you can't beat them, join them. In Path of Exile news, the massive new league Keepers of the Flame launched yesterday, and preliminary reports show this being an even more popular league than the previous one. In the days leading up to the launch, we got some good news that respecking the Genesis tree would be free. Spectral Tigers were looking great for summoner builds. We got some great news about wands, lots of wander buffs in the patch notes. We even found out that GGG is looking to eventually add in a built-in price checking feature. That's for the new async trade. But then we found out that the new Kinetic Rain skill gem got nerfed into oblivion before we ever got a chance to play it. Not sure how it actually works out in play now that people have tried it, so if you've done so, sound off in the comments, let me know. Is it good? Is it dead? Then the Bloodline Ascendancy reveals left people feeling kind of whelmed. I think people expected these Bloodline Ascendancies to be like really strong, things that everyone's going to want to like grab one of them, but they seem very tailored to specific builds with few choices for attack builds or melee builds. It seems most builds aren't going to end up picking any of these Ascendancies, but again, maybe that changes once people actually get to try them. So have any of you folks already spec'd into one of those Ascendancies? Sound off in the comments. I'm looking to jump into this league on Monday. What league starter do you recommend for me? Then in some industry news, Amazon announced 14,000 job cuts this week. The start of what some reports say may amount to as many as 30,000 eventual cuts. Amazon Game Studios was hit hard as the company shifts resources away from first-party AAA game development. As part of this, Amazon has reportedly canceled their Lord of the Rings MMO, which was their second attempt at a Lord of the Rings MMO, after they canceled their first Lord of the Rings MMO in 2021 because of a contract dispute with Tencent. This newly canceled Lord of the Rings MMO was in partnership with Embracer Group, who owned the rights to Lord of the Rings video games, and it was going to be a persistent open-world MMO adventure that would cover the events of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. Did anyone tell Amazon that we already have a Lord of the Rings MMO? Is the market really demanding another Lord of the Rings MMO? There's so much you can do with that franchise. Can't we just get like a really nice single-player game? Then on top of everything else, Amazon's New World is being sunset. The game basically just got its best update yet, which saw a resurgence in players. And now we learned that there will officially be no more new content, and the servers will hopefully last until the end of 2026, but possibly be brought down sooner. According to reports, the New World devs were laid off. Therefore, can't get new content when there's no one left around to do it. Now, in response to this, people are review bombing New World. Yeah, that'll show Amazon. Now, after seeing all the negative reviews, people will think twice about buying this game that Amazon is shutting down. Yeah, nice extra little screw you to the devs who are losing their jobs after all their good work. Now their legacy is a game with bad reviews on Steam. Good job. You know, it was 11 years ago that Amazon bought Twitch, and it was at TwitchCon 9 years ago that Amazon Game Studios revealed 3 games it had in the works as it was jumping into AAA PC gaming. It had New World, Crucible, and something called Breakaway. They canceled Breakaway in 2018. Crucible released in 2020 and was shut down within a couple of months. New World released in 2021. Rough launch. Never quite fully recovered from it. Things got better. And then just recently, things got really good. And now it's gone. It was earlier this year on LinkedIn that former Prime Gaming Vice President Ethan Evans revealed that Amazon's goal, which it's had for quite a while apparently, was to disrupt Steam as the dominant PC platform. Evans pointed out that Amazon was over 250 times bigger than Steam, which led them to believe that they should have been big enough to basically throw their weight around and get customers. But after over 15 years, Amazon could never figure out how to do it. Quote, "We never validated our core assumptions before investing heavily in solutions. The truth is that gamers already had the solution to their problems, Steam, and they weren't going to switch platforms just because a new one was available. We needed to build something dramatically better, but we failed to do so. And we needed to validate our assumptions about our customers before starting to build. But we never really did that. Just because you are big enough to build something doesn't mean people will use it." It's staggering to me when corporations play with unfathomable sums of money without putting in the necessary planning and thought behind it. I mean, it would be like buying the most popular science fiction film franchise for billions of dollars and then not bothering to plan out an entire trilogy before releasing the first new film. Just completely moronic. I put more thought into planning into buying my PC components. But you know what's the biggest sign of Amazon's failure to compete with Steam? The fact that it is probably news to you, as it was to me, that Amazon was even trying to compete with Steam. And they own Twitch. If they wanted to become a storefront, how have they not leveraged it as a storefront? Imagine watching a streamer playing a game, and there's a button right there that says, "Buy this game." And if you buy the game, some of the proceeds goes to the streamer. So you're incentivized to buy the game and support the streamer. The streamer is incentivized to say, "Hey, click my button to buy the game." You can even do things like run promotions where you can give away game copies in exchange for gifted subs, or you can give subs discounts on games. The lost opportunity is baffling. It just time and again, someone comes up and tries to compete with Steam. And time and again, they just end up making a worse product and then wonder, why did this fail? I don't get it. We threw money at it. If you want to compete with Steam, you need to meet Steam's baseline functionality, which no one has done, and then be even better somehow. You got to provide even more value if you're going to pull people away from the thing that works fine for them. But hey, maybe after these 30,000 layoffs, Amazon's new AI employees will challenge the decision makers to steer things in the right direction. It's not like ChatGPT is notoriously known for glazing every terrible idea you give it and deluding you into thinking everything you say is genius. Robot yes men will surely save the company. Then in some quick Borderlands 4 news, this week's update pushed out a new weekly wildcard mission that y'all are going to want to jump on. You can farm the below the surface mission for the Bod legendary shotgun. It's a pretty quick mission for an awesome item that counts not just as a shotgun, but as basically any kind of weapon. So you can double dip on damage boosts and synergies for shotgun, sniper, AR, pistol, SMG, and they all stack with each other. So get grinding while you still can. Then Arc Raiders has exploded onto Steam this week, reaching over 260,000 peak concurrent players and very positive reviews. 91% of Steam reviews are positive. And that's not even counting PlayStation and Xbox players. The extraction shooter had some stiff competition releasing in the shadow of Battlefield 6, but seems that has not slowed the game down. This is the second game by Nexon-owned developer Embark, who previously released The Finals in late 2023. What's most impressive is that The Finals was a free-to-play title that peaked at just over 240,000 peak concurrent players. Arc Raiders has a $40 price point and already beat that number, becoming one of Steam's most popular extraction shooters ever. Seems Embark learned a lot from The Finals, which is a team-based shooter that is hyper-competitive and has a high skill ceiling. It serves its niche very well. Arc Raiders is a bit more approachable, less niche in its appeal, mixes PvE to create chaotically fun moments whether you win or lose. Then in some quick Helldivers 2 news, the devs are looking into dropping hard drive support, HDD support, for the game in order to reduce its file size on PC. Studio head Shams Georgiani explained on Discord that his team is considering two options, either branching the game into two builds on PC, one for players with HDDs and one for players with SSDs, or just abandoning HDD support altogether. Helldivers 2 weighs in at a massive 150 gigs on PC, more than triple its size on Xbox and PlayStation, where it doesn't need to have HDD support. Because HDDs are so much slower than SSDs, the PC version of the game has tons of duplicate files to make it easier for HDDs to locate and load assets on demand. I won't pretend to understand how that works or why that's a solution. And while it may be easy for us to say, yeah, just make 2 versions of the game, it's a lot more work and ongoing upkeep for them to do that. I do wonder what percentage of Helldivers 2 players are actually running the game on an HDD. In fact, I'll turn that question to you folks. How many of you, whether you're playing the game or not, how many of you, just in general, still run your games, any game, on an HDD? Now, I use an external HDD for mass storage, right? Like making video content that's a crap ton of gigs. But I run all my games on SSDs. I remember in the past when SSDs were first coming out, I got a small one to run my operating system on. Maybe I can squeeze 1 or 2 of my favorite games on it. And geez, the loading times, my goodness, wow, so fast. Now, since then, SSD prices have become quite reasonable, as long as you don't need mass storage. It's kind of ironic that part of the reason games have gone bigger is to maintain HDD support, but bigger games means we need bigger drives, which makes some people feel like they can't swap to a smaller drive, and so they're going to stick with a large HDD. Then we've had an update on the Nintendo suing Palworld situation. It's been over a year now that this has been ongoing, when Nintendo and the Pokemon Company filed a patent infringement lawsuit in September 2024 against Palworld developer Pocket Pair. Now, in patent law, there's something called prior art, which just means any evidence that your invention was already publicly known or available before you filed your patent application. And prior art is generally why patents get denied. So Nintendo's been trying to pass 3 patents in Japan, and one of those applications has now been rejected on a non-final basis by the Japan Patent Office because of evidence of prior art that was found in Monster Hunter 4, Ark, and even Pocket Pair's Craftopia. This does not mean the application is dead in the water. Nintendo can try to modify the patent or otherwise fight this, but, it's a nice roadblock thrown in their way. The patent in question is not actually about monster capturing specifically, but rather some very specific sequences of gameplay mechanics that cover a more general array of situations. Honestly, it's ridiculous that basic gameplay mechanics can be patented at all. Imagine a writer patenting like tragic backstories, or a cinematographer patenting like a camera technique. Now folks, do be sure to check out last week's video in which we discuss all the new Path of Exile expansion features, because that's going to wrap up this video. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Patreon supporters for making these videos possible. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe to join Rhykker's Raiders for more gaming content.